to the first page. So first of all, for the folks who have not really looked into the participatory budgeting before, what is PB? So it is a democratic process in which the community members directly decide how to spend a part of the council members' discretionary funding. And in this case, will be $1 million for the community to decide how to spend in our community. And I'll have Greg, our legislative budget coordinator, to explain more about the discretionary funding and capital project later as well. And the process will be the community members propose ideas to meet local needs in the district, such like improvement to schools, parks, libraries, public housing, or other public space. So the keyword here is actually public. So any project being proposed, we need to make sure it's accessible to the public. And we're in the cycle 12 of New York City PB cycle. And this year we have 29 districts participating, and there is $29 million to be decided by the community. Okay, now I'm gonna hand this part to Greg.
Absolutely. So let's talk money. So what are discretionary funds? It's kind of baked into the name, discretionary. It is funding that can be given to organizations providing services in the district, organizations doing work, or government agencies, but it's at the council member's discretion and he allocates it as he sees fit. But there's two types of discretionary funding that we have. There's capital funding. So think of this as brick and mortar. So when you want to build something, when you want to make an investment in a park or in a playground, if you think about a library that needs a repair, maybe, those are types of projects that would utilize capital funding. So they cover long-term investments in facilities and infrastructure in our district. And then there's also expense funding. And so that's what I was mentioning earlier. That's for services, for people. Let's say you want to run a food bank in the community and you're a nonprofit that provides food to community members. That would come from expense funding. So these cover the costs of running our city. They are set aside to operate each of the city agencies. So the Parks Department, we provide expense funding for. The Sanitation Department to pick up our trash, we provide expense funding for. So that's kind of the breakdown and kind of gives you a sense of the distinguishing characteristics between the two types of discretionary funding. So we want to talk about what is eligible, particularly when talking about participatory budgeting. We're really going to focus on the capital side of things. Participatory budgeting, for the most part, does not focus on the expense side of running things. Could you go back to a slide, please? So when thinking about things that are capitally eligible, these would be technology upgrades. Let's say in one of our local schools, maybe PS69, they need new iPads for the 4th grade class. So that would be eligible, that would be capitally eligible. Let's say an auditorium needs to be repaired, that would be capitally eligible, so on and so forth, as you see on the slide. I won't read through it all. And in terms of the criteria, like I mentioned, since we are focused on capitally eligible projects, they do have to meet certain criteria. So the first one, and probably the biggest one that will knock out many projects, is that they must cost at least $50,000. And this will be determined by a city agency. But you know, that kind of gives you a sense of this. It's a long-term investment into the needs and infrastructure of our city. So it needs to be a pretty substantial investment. But there is also a maximum in terms of what the project can be, the funding that can go towards the project. That means it must be no more than $1 million. And it must also have a lifespan of 5 years. Like I said, it's a long-term investment in our infrastructure and the needs of our community. So it needs to be able to exist for at least 5 years. The only caveat for that is if it is a technology upgrade through the SCA, the School Construction Authority. They are the one that administers the capital projects, particularly for schools. There's a specific authority that helps with the building. It can be a 3-year lifespan. As we probably know, our phones, all of a sudden after 2 or 3 years, something weird happens all the time, right? So that's why they carve out that exception, because of the constant usage, and often technology products are not meant to last for much more than 3 years. So that's some of the criteria, and that kind of gives you some guide rails on what the types of projects can be funded. Andrew, I see you dropped a question in the chat. Do Reso A funds still exist and cover tech at schools? So, and what Andrew's referring to is Reso A is funding that comes from the council offices and is used towards like capital projects at schools. So yes, Reso A funding does still cover tech at schools. So we like this past year, since it was passed in the budget, we provided a couple schools in the district with technology upgrades using the Reso A funding. And then to just give you some examples of some of the cheaper projects versus the more expensive projects, and we're going to be leaning more on some of the lower cost capital projects, things like replacing fallen trees, installing a stop sign at a very busy intersection, or purchasing trash cans across our city to ensure that folks have a place to put their litter. But things that we're probably not going to be able to have funded through participatory budgeting are things like building a community center. It costs millions of dollars to not only allocate the lot or piece of land where this community center could go, but also for the construction and building of the community center. It's a really expensive project. Building a park as well, building a swimming pool. These are not going to be things that we're going to be able to have covered through participatory budgeting. But I don't say that as like a detriment. There are still many things that our community can fund and provide that will greatly benefit us. So don't think just because you can't do a big flashy project that it can't have an impact.
Thanks, Greg. So actually, I'm gonna jump one slide here. So let's see some samples of the previous funded project. So this way we can see what Greg was just telling everyone about the capital project, and also the expensive, the cheap one, which one might fit in as for like what we can propose for our district. So there's some examples in different categories. So this one is for schools. For example, the bathroom upgrades for 2 elementary school costs $400,000. Technology upgrades or hydroponic science lab and gym upgrades. So these are great examples. Now you can start thinking, what schools do you have in mind in our district that could use an upgrade? And then the next one we have for parks. So we can have memorial beautification project, safety upgrades, and outdoor stage or basketball court. Then next one, we have library. So you can look, there's several different ones you can look through, the technology upgrades or the youth adult upgrade, meeting room upgrade. So these are great examples of what can be done in our district as well. The next one is transportation. I think we can think of a lot of roads in our district can use a resurface. So this will be great. So now we know 250,000 gets you 1 mile to be resurfaced, and real-time passenger information, safety first, and parkside safety improvement. Okay, not Q&A yet. So if anyone has any question, please drop the question in the comment section and we'll address them at the Q&A section. So now I'm going to talk about the timeline and how does participatory budgeting work. So as you can see, this whole process involve a series of meetings that feed into the city's annual budget cycle. So the 2022 to 2023 cycle has 4 main phases. So it began right now, September 2020, and continue into 2023. So right now we're in the first phase, which is the idea collection and volunteer recruitment. So this is through the community meetings like this, like the neighborhood assembly we're hosting right now. Then the residents come together, we brainstorm ideas, and also this is a great time to recruit the budget delegates who will be the volunteer to draft the proposals, to come up with the idea, to put into the ideas into a proposal, then eventually put them on the ballot for next year to vote. And then once we pass this phase, so we have several meetings scheduled for the next few weeks, then this is a great chance to tell your neighbors, your friends, if they're interested. Even they just want to learn more. They don't, I know everyone's time, everyone has so many obligations. So even you don't have time to volunteer with us, you can still submit your ideas to us and also just tell people and talk about this. And the more people we have to get involved, the better project we can come up with in our district as well. So the next phase will be October through January 2023. And that's the proposal development phase. And the budget delegates that were recruited from the current phase will meet together regularly, then they can transform ideas into full proposals with the support from the city agencies and us. So we actually will have some agency briefing at the end of October. And that's when you can present your ideas to, for example, DOT, parks, schools. Then this way they can look into your proposal. They can tell you, okay, this one might cost too much money, won't fit the criteria. And this one is a great idea. And then this way you can talk to the agencies and we can decide what goes on the final proposal. And then this way you narrow down the proposals and you select the project that meet the needs of the community. And then after that, then everything goes on the ballot, then it's go out to vote and the vote week. That's March 2023 to April 2023. Once all the proposal has been determined, the budget delegates and residents get out the vote and prepare for the 9-day community vote. And I just want to mention here, one thing I didn't say earlier is who can participate in this process. Anyone who's 11 years old or older, and you have a meaningful connection to the district. For example, you live in the district, you're going to school in the district, or you work in the district, and you have a child goes to a school in this district, then you can participate. And regardless of your immigration status, you can be the part of this. And same goes for who can vote in this process. Anyone who's 11 years or older with a connection to the district, regardless of your immigration status, you can vote. You don't need an ID to vote. That's why I encourage your neighbors, tell them about it, have them to come vote on the proposal you worked on for the past few months. And then the next phase is evaluation and planning. So that's from May to June in 2023. So the winning projects will be included in the New York City's upcoming fiscal year budget and will evaluate the process and oversee the implementation of the winning project by agencies. So that's when all the magic can finally happen, when we get all the funding. Let me see. So actually, I think now we're at the Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat, and Chanel can, if you can let me know what questions are there, then we can try to answer. But again, thank you, everyone.
I have one question.
Sure.
I'm wondering if there is a target number of projects that will be funded in District 25. Like it's $1 million. Is there an idea that would be divvied up among 4 or 6 or 2 different proposals?
That's a great great question. So actually, so you can put maximum up to 20 projects on the proposal, but it's not recommended since that really divided the money into very small pool into each project, what you can do. So the ideal count will be put up 10 proposals up for vote. And then during the vote week, everyone can vote up to 5 choices. You can only vote, you can choose to vote only for one project, or you can vote up to 5. So eventually the top 5 project will be the winning projects to be getting the pool of money of this $1 million.
Got it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else have any questions?
A quick question.
Sure.
Is there, maybe too early, but is there like a target or a minimum of like votes that there's a goal for? Or is PB like asking that there be a minimum, you know?
There is no, I don't think they have a goal. The more the better. I think this question I have to get back to Andrew, but I look it up. I think in the past year, a good amount of turnout will be 3,000 votes generally. That's
Yeah,
what I look from like the previous cycle, but the more the better. That's why we really encourage everyone to talk to neighbors, even they cannot participate in the proposal developing phase. They should come out to vote, and then they should choose the project that they think really fit the needs of our community.
totally. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions in the chat?
I guess I do have one more question. Like in the proposal development phase, you know, your slide says that there would be support from city agencies and staff. Like, do you have an idea of what that looks like? Like, is that, I don't know, is that through drop-in meetings? Is it that we'll have like a delegate from like Parks Department that we get to reach out to? And how is that going to work?
Yeah, so that's also a great question. So what we're gonna do is once we have, so anyone who wants to volunteer as a budget delegate, you can let us know, let our office know, then we can put everyone in the same page, then we can start decide. So you guys can decide what time you want to meet, how regularly you want to meet to put together this proposal. And the same time, we'll also, once we have a group of the budget delegate, we're gonna do a orientation for the budget delegate. I think that will touch more on how to develop proposals and what to expect as well. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be an agency briefing with the different agency. They'll come up, then this is the time they'll come talk to, they'll look over the ideas we put together, then they can give us a realistic check of if this is gonna happen, if this really fits the criteria of this PB, then that's where we can get all the help. And also, if you ever have any questions about if this one project I thought of, I don't know if it's gonna be fitting into the PB, just shoot an email to me, to the office, then we can connect you with the proper agency to get that answer for you as well. So that the support will be from the city agencies and the staff will be us. And
That's
also the
great.
office, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that's very helpful because the part of why I'm asking it is just, I know in the linear park organizer group, there's often talk about like green infrastructure and adding more green infrastructure to the neighborhood, but we don't have like the technical expertise to know if that's even realistic or possible. So that's helpful to know that we would have access to people that would give that
Yes.
kind of point of view. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And one quickly to add on to what Weilai said, which I think is exactly on point. You know, in my experience on the, you know, discretionary funding side of things, when we were doing it as like a council office, you know, we would reach out to agencies like the School Construction Authority, and they would help with cost estimates. They would help us understand, you know, what's the scale of these projects, how long is it going to take, how much is it going to cost, etc. So we work very much in tandem with the agencies when thinking through our, our capital funding from the discretionary side of things. So I'd imagine it would look very similar on the participatory budgeting side of things as well.
So thank you, Sarah, for that question. We'll definitely, any questions about how to develop proposal, you have an idea, you don't know how feasible it is, let us know. We'll be happy to help. Any other questions?
We have a question in the chat. How would I invite my neighbors to participate in this?
Okay, so if your neighbor is interested, so depends on what, we have few more, I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit, is we have few more neighborhood assembly like this will be hosted. And two of them, the next two will actually be in person. One is at PS 89 Elmhurst next Tuesday night. And then there's another one the following Sunday in PS 69, also in person. Then we'll closing out the neighborhood assemblies with another Zoom session. I believe it's October 5th, but I'll have all this information there in a bit. Chanel, actually, if you don't mind, you can drop the link about the general information. You can go to bpnyc.org. That's where you can find all the information. And even if you have friends from different districts, they might not live in District 25, but if they want to find out if their council member is participating in this process, they can use that link to check as well. All the participating CMs will be, the council member district will be listed on the page. And so then if there's no question, I'll move to the next exciting part. That's gonna be everyone, now it's your chance to shine. Tell us what ideas you have right now. If you don't have any ideas, don't worry, it's okay. This is, you don't have to give me any answer right now, but this is something you can start thinking and start brainstorming and let us know. So the next part will be, what capital project would you like to see in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst? So like we saw the examples from earlier slides, can be public school bathrooms, auditoriums, computer labs, NYCCouncil Community Center, they all receive renovation thanks to PV. And I also mentioned this as well as spaces that are accessible to public. That's a very important point to think in terms of the project you have in mind. So if anyone wants to, you can put in the chat, you can just unmute yourself and share with everyone, that would be great.
Weilai, would there be like another day where we can share ideas if we just want to think about it tonight?
Yes, of course. So there is a great tool by the, it's called the idea map. If Chanel, if you can drop in the link. So that's where you can actually go to, it's a website, then you can click on the district and then it's a map. So you can actually pick even the intersection where you think this project will be great, then that's where you can comment. And maybe after this slide, I can actually go over that with you guys. Just right now, I cannot get out of the slide. So let me see, maybe I actually have it here. So this is fill out the idea card, also use the ideal map. So actually, I want to say that is we're also gonna have some idea cards in the office soon. So if you have any ideas, you have neighbors who doesn't have access to computer, they don't have access to email, they can come by our office and then they can just come over and fill out these cards and give it back to us. Or if you guys want to take some and share with your neighbors, with your family, you're welcome to come stop by our office to pick that up. Just give us a call, email me, then we can arrange that. But if you have any ideas already, that's great. Then you can let me know. I think there has been 3 ideas submitted on the idea map for our district.
This isn't my idea. I'm stealing it from Tracy, a local teacher that some of you might know, but she was just talking about getting like safe and secure bicycle and scooter parking sheds or storage at the different schools along 34th Avenue, since so many parents and students and teachers are now using those forms for transportation to school, but there's not always a really good place to keep things. So that might be too
Yeah.
cheap for this, but it's an idea.
No, that's great. We can definitely check with, I believe with DOT about this, but I think that's a great idea. So this is why no idea is bad idea. We'll just come together and say what you think of, then we can go over and then we'll work with the agencies to see if we can actually turn them into a real proposal in this process. But thanks so much for sharing that. We'll be sure to lock that in and then we can discuss more about that. Anyone else?
I would like to see some attention given to our local libraries. Enhance some of the features on the linear park. I'm just so in awe. I'm in love with the new diverters that were installed on my very corner, and that's like a dream come true. But I think just going on ahead and building on what we've done so far. And the parks, of course, just, really just, I know that's an area where Shaker's really been shining, but I'd like to see attention to libraries, to our parks, and specifically our linear park.
That's great. Yeah. So I would encourage you to go to this idea map link. I think I cannot see the chat, but I believe Chanel probably already dropped that link there. So make sure you bookmark it. You never know. After dinner, you might have a new idea come up. Then go on the website and log it in there. Then we'll keep track of it. And that's where once we have all the budget delegates together, then they can discuss and we'll pick out like the first top 10, 15. Then we'll start working, turning them into proposals. But thanks so much for sharing. So if you have more ideas, like I said, Andrew.
Hey, sorry, just very quickly, I just saw the ideas map as I was gonna say this. But Zalika beat me to it, but I wanted to show some love to Playground 90, right by Northern Boulevard by PS 148. I guess there's a way at some point with the budget delegates to like amend or to like finalize what the proposal would look like, right? Because like maybe my idea for the park might be a little different than what the original post person is.
Yeah, of course. So that's where the meetings come in handy. That's when all the budget delegates meet together. Then you guys can have the discussion about so that's between you and Zilika. So
Okay, cool. Thanks.
yeah, no, that's why we encourage everyone, put the idea there, like I'm glad you mentioned that as well. So that's where then you get to share your thoughts with your neighbors and you can really truly trying to work together to make our community better. If there's no other ideas to share right now, that's okay. Just like I said, use the idea cards if you need to stop at office or fill out the idea map or you can just email us. So the one, if you have any other question, you can also just email pbnycd25@gmail.com, or you can email our office directly. That's Krishnan at council.nyc.gov, or call our office at 718-803-6373. Let me see. Okay, so actually, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth here. So now we can talk about the next steps. So first of all, if anyone would like to become a budget delegate, please let me know. You can email me later. You don't have to tell me right now. You can think about it because it is a commitment. So I do But I welcome everyone who's in the meeting and who didn't come to the meeting, but they might be interested. Just email our office, let me know. And then we can, once we have a good group to start, then we can arrange the orientation for everyone. Then I can help you to schedule the meetings. Then you can start meeting together either virtually or in person. And we can start really do the exciting part. We can really start developing the proposals. So the budget delegates will meet regularly in the fall and the winter to determine the needs for our community. And then you work with city agency and staff to develop the proposals. And then another great thing to do is encourage your neighbors and friends, your family to attend upcoming assemblies. Tell your parent PTA, tell the school PTA, tell your coworkers, tell your neighbors, and tell your building, or tell a stranger on the street you run into. Tell them you see something you're not happy with the neighborhood, you think the street needs to be resurfaced, tell them, go attend the PB, then that you can turn that into a proposal. And if you need any more information, you can always go to pbnyc.org for more information. And then most importantly, once you develop all the proposals, remember, tell everyone to go out to vote next spring. So I think that concludes the presentation for today.